If you still hold the belief that you're fundamentally a good person, stop watching this right now, because what I'm about to reveal will shake that conviction to its core, forever altering how you see yourself. Back in 1503, a man broken in spirit sat alone inside a freezing, bleak prison chamber in Florence. His physical form was battered, his reputation in ruins. Everything he had meticulously built with effort and perseverance was reduced to ashes. Yet despite his physical suffering, his mind was sharper than ever, alert and piercingly clear. In the silence of that dark, desolate cell, he perceived something terrifying, a cold, brutal truth about human nature that everyone instinctively knows but dares not confront. This man, named Niccolò Machiavelli, etched these truths into writing, detailing every hidden rule and relentless pattern that distinguish those who succeed from those destined to fail. He uncovered the ruthless mechanics behind power, influence, and survival. His insights revealed that beneath the veneer of kindness, every person is strategically playing a game, an unseen contest where allegiances are fleeting and motives are often concealed. As you watch now, unknowingly, someone out there is calculating your worth, analyzing your weaknesses, reading your intentions, and deciding whether you're valuable or dispensable. The cruel truth: you make it so effortless for them because no one has ever shown you the real rules of the game. You've been misled to believe that kindness, honesty, or good-heartedness will guarantee your success. But the reality is stark and cold. Kindness doesn't always win. Truth and honesty aren't always rewarded, and good people aren't necessarily the ones who finish first. Look around. The so-called virtuous are often trailing behind, exhausted and confused, questioning why life's unfairness pounds them despite their integrity. What remains unseen by most is the duality of existence. There's the world you're taught about in textbooks, where fairness and hard work are supposed to lead to victory. The idealistic realm where virtue shines as a guiding light. But beyond this lies the unforgiving reality, a world governed by power, perception, and ruthless calculation, where strength and strategic thinking reign supreme. In this stark domain, appearances matter more than reality. Perception often shapes destiny, and those with no mercy inherit the earth, while the righteous are left with nothing. For too long, you've been living in that naive first world, scratching your head, perplexed by the chaos and injustices of the second. But once you see these unspoken patterns, once you grasp how this game truly operates, there's no unseeing it. The moment your awareness expands, your trust in others diminishes because you realize that everyone is playing a different game, one they don't openly reveal. This knowledge can be your most powerful shield, a way to protect yourself from falling prey to manipulation, to build mental barriers that keep you safe, and ultimately, to stop being a victim of circumstances beyond your control. Machiavelli didn't craft these insights for saints or villains. He envisioned them for those tired of losing, exhausted by confusion, and finally brave enough to see the world stripped of illusions, people willing to accept raw, unfiltered truth to conquer the game. So now, the question is, are you prepared to abandon your naivety? Because these 7 lessons are either your liberation or your undoing. They hold the power to elevate you beyond the common, or to turn you into a ruthless predator. The decision is yours, but you must first understand the rules of engagement. Drop this declaration into your comments if you're ready. I'm prepared to face the raw truth. Lesson 1 is about the destructive nature of your emotions. You care excessively about what others think of you, about gaining acceptance, about being understood and perceived as good. That obsession becomes a leash, subtly held by others without your notice, constricting your potential. Machiavelli saw that emotions make you predictable, and predictability makes you controllable. Controllable, in turn, leaves you vulnerable and powerless. The individual who desires less, who maintains emotional distance, automatically wields greater influence. When negotiations happen, the desperate party always loses. It's an inherent law. The one who can detach from the outcome, who remains composed and unaffected, always holds the upper hand. When desperation radiates from you, it's like scenting blood in the water to predators. Whether they admit it or not, everyone around you is a shark, constantly on the prowl for weak prey. Machiavelli famously said that prudent individuals are capable of doing once what fools take ages to grasp: detachment. The fool becomes emotionally entangled, invests everything, and spirals into desperation, which ultimately leads to loss learning too late. The wise, however, stay detached from the outset, measuring, analyzing, and executing with cool logic rather than reckless emotion. Imagine someone in your life who holds significance but also has leverage over you. They sense your attachment. Because of that, they can cancel plans and you accept it without protest. They ignore your time and you tolerate it with a smile. They take your presence for granted and you keep showing up, craving approval and validation. That imbalance of emotional investment hands them power over you. Now, picture if you cared 50% less, not entirely detached, just less emotionally involved. When they cancel, it's no longer a crisis. You simply move on. No rescheduling, no begging they miss their chance. What follows is that they start reaching out more, trying to mend what they underestimated: your indifference. Once your emotional attachment diminishes, power shifts into your favor. It plays out everywhere. Someone insults you, your initial impulse might be to defend yourself, to prove they're wrong, to assert your worth. But that's weakness. Instead, respond with calm indifference. Give them no reaction, no fuel for their ego. Walk away with dignity. Because people are temporary and circumstances are fleeting, your peace of mind should not depend on external validation. When you love others, do so intentionally, without relying on their approval. True strength lies in loving from a place of choice, not need. These individuals, who remain calm amid chaos, aren't devoid of feeling. They simply know that their serenity isn't tethered to external outcomes. Practice this. Identify 3 things or people you're most emotionally dependent on now. Ask yourself, if they vanished tomorrow, would you still be okay? The answer will almost always be yes, because the real power is consciousness of your own resilience. This insight fosters detachment, allowing you to engage fully in life without losing yourself in the process. Your worth is not based on what happens externally, and your peace doesn't hinge on their validation. The goal is to act with intensity yet remain emotionally unshaken, to chase your goals without collapse if they slip away. Invest in relationships but don't depend on them. Pursue ambitions but stay unbothered if they don't materialize. That's true power, an indifference that protects and elevates. Claim in your mind, I am complete, regardless of external approval. Lesson 2 involves understanding human beings as predictable creatures like prey in a vast ecosystem. You blind yourself to these patterns because you want to believe people are complex enigmas. Yet, Machiavelli spent his entire life observing power dynamics among kings, generals, merchants, and advisors, and he discovered a startling truth. People follow repetitive, instinctive behaviors. They respond to the same triggers, react in similar ways, time after time. The secret lies in recognizing these patterns early. The moment you spot them, you control the interaction. People follow their programming like robots, often unaware of it themselves. Machiavelli observed that those who understand these repetitive habits can manipulate or steer relationships effortlessly. For example, if someone gets angry when disrespected, that pattern is your key to control. Subtly disrespect them, and they'll become unstable. Show exaggerated respect, and you can manipulate their perception. If you want to keep the peace, avoid touching their sensitive spots. The core needs that drive most individuals are validation, control, safety, and significance. These are their buttons. When you understand what someone consistently seeks or avoids, you gain the ability to push their buttons or protect yourself from their triggers. Study someone for a week without their knowledge. Observe what they talk about most, what makes them defensive, what lights them up, and what they avoid. Within this time, you'll understand their deepest needs, how they crave recognition or control, and you'll see what makes them vulnerable or resilient. When you know these patterns, you can predict their actions, deflect their manipulation, or use their weaknesses strategically. Recognizing your own patterns is equally vital. Awareness helps you disrupt your habits before others do. Reflect on what triggers your emotional reactions, what you tend to avoid, and what you relentlessly pursue. The more self-aware you become, the better you shield yourself. Human beings are driven by familiar needs: validation, power, safety, status, and understanding these core drives helps you decode their actions and intentions. As Machiavelli said, studying people like you're preparing for an exam, watching micro-expressions, noticing word choices, and tracking behavioral patterns gives you the power of anticipation. Actions reveal truths, words merely veil them, and whoever can accurately anticipate others' behavior automatically shapes outcome and controls the game. This mastery over perception makes you untouchable, a ruler of your own destiny, one who controls the rules of engagement instead of blindly playing by them. Owning this understanding means seeing the game clearly while others stumble blindly, caught in illusions and misconceptions. Assert this in your mind: I see what others miss. Lesson 3 revolves around The strategic power of absence. You find yourself constantly accessible, always responding, always available, and it's eroding your value faster than any insult or criticism ever could. This is the law of scarcity in human relationships. What's abundant becomes ordinary, what's rare becomes precious. When you make yourself constantly available, you become background noise, invisible, and undervalued. Machiavelli explained that the most potent rulers are not those who are always in public view, but those whose presence is an event, whose arrival commands attention and respect. When they speak, people listen because their presence is rare. As he famously said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you can't be both," emphasizing that absence and mystery strengthen authority. If you're always there, always visible, familiarity breeds indifference. Think of your favorite artist or musician. If they released a new track every day, would it hold your attention? Probably not. But when they vanish for months and then drop a masterpiece, it commands attention, respect, and anticipation. Your life should mirror this principle. Who do you value more? The one who's always at your beck and call, or the individual who is selective about their time? The one who responds immediately to every message, or the one who takes hours because they're genuinely busy with their own pursuits? You know the answer intuitively. Yet, many of us unconsciously sabotage ourselves by making ourselves always available, diminishing our own worth. The concept of weaponized absence involves deliberately withdrawing your presence at strategic moments, not as a game, not for manipulation, but to preserve your energy and self-respect. When someone disrespects your time or takes your presence for granted, reduce your accessibility without explanation or fanfare. Just fade into the background. They'll notice your absence because the void is undeniable. They'll realize your true value when they see that your availability is not guaranteed. If they genuinely care, they'll make an effort to reconnect, to adapt. If they don't, then your withdrawal has revealed their true priorities. This process teaches you that withdrawal creates a craving for your presence. The more you pull back, the more others yearn for your attention. When you practice this over a couple of weeks, you'll gauge who respects your boundaries and who takes you for granted. Those who respond positively are worth your time. Those who don't have just shown you their true colors. Mastering strategic absence transforms your entire life. It pushes you to develop your own interests, to pursue passions beyond your relationships or obligations, cultivating a vibrant life that isn't dependent on others' approval. That self-sufficiency becomes magnetic, more attractive than any neediness or constant availability. The paradox is profound. The less you offer your presence, the more it becomes desirable. And when you learn to disappear at the right moments, your presence turns into a gift, something to be earned, not expected. Establish this in your mind. My absence speaks louder than words. The next lesson is about controlling your reputation and perception, because in this game, how others see you defines your reality. Machiavelli knew a fundamental truth. Perception trumps truth. If you don't shape how others view you, someone else will do it for you, and most likely, in a way that benefits only them. He believed that a person's reputation is more influential than their actual character. A ruler can be generous but perceived as stingy, and that perception will dominate. A leader can be strong in truth but perceived as weak, and that perception undermines authority. As Machiavelli explained, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you truly are. Appearance isn't merely superficial, it's a strategic tool. People tend to judge based on their stories about you, stories they create from the narratives you project or neglect to project. Successful individuals understand the importance of crafting an image that aligns with their goals. Humility, for example, can be a masking device. Many hide their achievements, thinking that showcasing success is boastful or unwise. Meanwhile, those who flaunt their victories, exaggerate their challenges as strategic wins, and control their story, attract more respect and opportunities. Both may be equally talented, but perception determines who is the focus of attention. A classic example is two entrepreneurs. One downplays his success, remains modest, and avoids self-promotion. The other shares every triumph, highlights every obstacle as a calculated move, and creates an aura of unstoppable momentum. Despite similar results, the latter attracts funding, clients, and admiration because they mastered their narrative. They understand that in the marketplace of attention, the loudest voice and the most compelling story win, not necessarily the most genuine or accurate. Building a reputation is about framing your achievements and skills in a way that aligns with how you want to be seen, not simply broadcasting your reality. When you do this, you make others see what you want them to see, shaping perception to your advantage. If you face rejection or setbacks, frame it as part of an intelligent evaluation process, not as failure. If you encounter difficulty, don't broadcast struggle. Instead, share the lessons learned once you've overcome obstacles. This way, others see resilience and strategic foresight, not weakness or despair. Remember, others are fabricating narratives about you right now, based on fragments and snippets. If you don't control the story, someone else will, often to your detriment. Take charge of your image with purpose, allowing your actions to speak your desired truth and shaping the story others tell about you. If your goal is to project an image of dependability, demonstrate reliability selectively in highly visible situations where it creates maximum impact. If your ambition is to appear accomplished, broadcast your victories at calculated moments to shape how others perceive your trajectory. If you wish to cultivate an aura of enigma and intrigue, deliberately withhold certain pieces of information that would otherwise demystify you completely. Study those in positions of political authority, regardless of your personal opinions about them. They are absolute virtuosos when it comes to managing their public narratives. They rarely provide direct responses to challenging inquiries. Instead, they skillfully redirect conversations toward their predetermined messaging. They remain relentlessly focused on their core themes, ensuring they dictate which version of events gets amplified in the public consciousness. They comprehend a fundamental principle. Whoever shapes the narrative ultimately shapes the reality that forms in people's minds. Now, translate this strategic approach into your personal existence. When someone probes into your circumstances or situation, you possess complete authority over which fragments of truth reach their ears. This isn't about fabricating falsehoods. Rather, it's about intelligent framing, highlighting certain dimensions while downplaying others, molding perception before it has the chance to mold you first. Most individuals, fundamentally, misunderstand authenticity, believing it requires total transparency and sharing every detail of their lives. Genuine authenticity means remaining true to your core self and values. Narrative management means being tactical about what aspects the external world witnesses. These two concepts can coexist harmoniously in your life. Your private reality can be chaotic and imperfect, while your public presentation remains refined and polished. Your internal uncertainties and doubts can be completely real and valid, while your outward confidence remains absolutely unshakable and steady. This duality isn't deceptive or inauthentic, it's strategic, because perception directly determines what opportunities come your way, and those opportunities ultimately determine your life's outcomes and trajectory. The harsh, unvarnished truth is this: two individuals possessing identical talents, skills, and capabilities can lead entirely different existences based solely on their mastery of narrative control. One person becomes recognized as an influential leader, commanding respect and authority, while the other remains perpetually overlooked and underestimated. One earns immediate trust and credibility, while the other faces constant skepticism and doubt. Same abilities, different perception, radically different life outcomes. Stop passively allowing reality to speak on your behalf. It simply doesn't speak loudly or persuasively enough. Take command of your narrative deliberately, or spend your entire existence bewildered about why people fail to recognize your genuine worth and contributions. Declare this commitment: I author my own narrative. The fifth principle centers on exploiting the psychological force of reciprocity to build influence. You give generously without expecting anything in return because you believe this makes you virtuous and good-hearted. And yes, it does make you morally admirable, but it simultaneously makes you forgettable and frequently exploited by those less principled. However, when you give strategically and deliberately, you construct a loyal network of individuals who feel genuinely indebted and obligated to you. Machiavelli observed that the most influential and powerful figures throughout history weren't miserly or withholding. Instead, they were generous but calculated in their generosity. They distributed favors and assistance in precise ways that cultivated unwavering loyalty. They offered help in manners that created lasting obligation and psychological debt. They invested their resources in individuals capable of delivering reciprocal value down the line. Machiavelli famously articulated, "Benefits should be conferred gradually so that they may be better enjoyed," revealing the psychology behind strategic giving. When someone performs an unsolicited favor for you, especially unexpectedly, you instinctively feel compelled to reciprocate. This obligation is hardwired into fundamental human social programming. Reciprocity stands as one of the most potent psychological principles governing human interaction. Yet most individuals trigger it accidentally and unconsciously. True masters deploy it with surgical precision and intentionality. Consider the stark contrast between two approaches. Person A assists everyone who requests help, freely distributing their time and energy without discrimination, remaining perpetually available to all. The inevitable result? People exploit this unlimited availability because there's no scarcity, driving appreciation, and no sense of obligation. Attached to the help received, assistance becomes expected rather than appreciated, transforming person A into a resource rather than a valued ally. Person B, conversely, operates with careful selectivity, choosing specific individuals to help in particular ways at strategically chosen moments. Each act of assistance carries genuine meaning, remains highly visible, and delivers unmistakable value. The outcome? Recipients experience authentic gratitude and appreciation. They feel meaningfully indebted and actively seek opportunities to return the favor. Person B has successfully constructed genuine influence and social capital through intelligent investment. Here's your practical application framework. When someone requests your assistance, resist the automatic impulse to immediately agree. Pause deliberately and evaluate several critical questions. Is this individual worth investing precious resources in? Will they remember and appreciate this assistance? Will they eventually be positioned to reciprocally help you when needed? If your honest answers to all three questions are negative, you're essentially donating finite energy into an infinite void that offers no return. If the answers lean positive, proceed with helping, but ensure your assistance genuinely counts and creates lasting impact. Avoid offering generic, easily forgotten advice. Instead, go substantially above and beyond in memorable ways that prompt them to think, I absolutely must find a way to repay this person somehow. The advanced technique involves giving proactively before requests even materialize. Identify someone who could prove valuable within your expanding network, then discover ways to assist them without waiting for them to ask. Perhaps you connect them with a crucial contact in your network, share valuable information they desperately need, or publicly support and amplify their projects and initiatives. What you've accomplished through this unsolicited generosity is creating unexpected reciprocity with amplified psychological impact. Because they never requested assistance, their sense of obligation intensifies considerably. Because you helped without any pressure or expectation, the gesture feels exponentially more genuine and heartfelt. You've just made a substantial deposit into the relationship bank account that will accumulate interest over time. The best part of this strategy? They'll actively search for opportunities to reciprocate without you ever needing to explicitly request anything. However, here's the absolutely crucial component that many overlook. Never vocally mention or remind people of what you've done to them. Don't maintain an audible scorecard or tally. Don't casually reference past favors in conversation. Such reminders instantly erase accumulated goodwill and transform generosity into transactional manipulation. Give with strategic intent, then allow the natural obligation to exist organically, without interference. People possess excellent memories for meaningful assistance they've received. Trust that when you eventually need something, they'll remember and reciprocate appropriately. Observe how genuinely successful individuals navigate and cultivate their professional networks. They're constantly performing small but meaningful favors, introducing valuable contacts, sharing timely opportunities, offering unique insights and specialized knowledge. Each gesture represents a strategic deposit into their relationship portfolio. Then, when they eventually need something significant, they possess an extensive network of individuals who feel they owe reciprocation. This isn't manipulative exploitation. It's intelligent, sophisticated relationship architecture. But here's your essential filtering mechanism. Exclusively invest in individuals who intuitively understand, practice reciprocity themselves. Certain people habitually take, without ever considering giving back. You'll identify them rapidly through their behavioral patterns. They're perpetually requesting assistance yet never offering help in return. They benefit substantially from your generosity then mysteriously disappear until their next need arises. Once you definitively identify these energy vampires, immediately terminate their supply access. No additional free assistance, no further energy investment, no exceptions. They fundamentally don't comprehend this reciprocal game, so refuse to continue playing it with them under any circumstances. The individual's genuinely worth your investment. They reciprocate naturally and instinctively without prompting. You assist them once, and they immediately begin seeking ways to help you in return. They remember your kindness, they appreciate your investment, and they operate from psychological abundance rather than scarcity. For these exceptional individuals, help them generously and frequently without reservation. You're constructing valuable alliances that will endure and strengthen over time. Machiavelli would immediately recognize this principle. The strongest, most enduring bonds aren't constructed solely on emotional love or casual friendship. They're built fundamentally on mutual benefit and reciprocal value creation. When two individuals actively help each other succeed and thrive, that relationship survives virtually any external pressure or challenge. When the relationship becomes imbalanced and one-sided, it inevitably dies the precise moment that convenience fades or circumstances shift. Strategic giving isn't emotionally cold or heartless. It's intelligently recognizing that your finite resources, time, energy, specialized knowledge, valuable connections are fundamentally limited and must be allocated wisely. Investing them strategically means they multiply exponentially and eventually return to you with interest. Investing them randomly and indiscriminately means they vanish, permanently without trace or benefit. Begin mapping your existing network immediately, and honestly, who have you meaningfully helped? Who has reciprocally helped you? Where does healthy balance exist? Where do glaring imbalances demand correction? Then deliberately adjust your investment strategy. Accordingly, give more generously to those who naturally reciprocate. Give progressively less to those who merely extract. Watch your network transform from an energy drain into a genuine, appreciating asset. Affirm, I invest intelligently in reciprocity. The sixth lesson involves mastering strategic ambiguity as a protective tool. You explain excessively, offering too much transparency, laying every card face up on the table, then feel confused when others consistently outmaneuver you. The fundamental reason: excessive clarity provides people with ammunition to use against you, while deliberate ambiguity preserves your options and flexibility. Machiavelli operated within a ruthless environment where articulating the wrong sentiment to the wrong individual meant immediate execution, so he mastered the delicate art of communicating everything while simultaneously revealing nothing of substance. He discovered that remaining deliberately nonspecific makes you significantly harder to pin down, challenge, or counter. The more your statements remain open to multiple interpretations, the more people project their preferred meanings onto your words, usually interpretations that favor your position. Machiavelli observed, the first method for evaluating a ruler's intelligence involves examining the quality of advisors surrounding him, but the second method involves observing how little he actually reveals while creating the appearance of complete transparency. That's strategic ambiguity operating at its finest. Consider practical applications. Someone inquires about your future plans and intentions. You could provide exhaustive detail about exactly what you're pursuing now. They possess the ability to copy your approach, compete directly with you, or prejudge whether your plan merits their support. Alternatively, you could respond, I'm exploring some compelling opportunities and still refining the specific details. Identical question, zero vulnerability created. You've shared nothing substantive while appearing transparent and forthcoming. Someone solicits your opinion on a controversial, divisive topic. You could stake out a clear, unambiguous position and potentially alienate half your audience immediately. Or you could articulate, there are legitimate, valid perspectives across multiple viewpoints. The situation is genuinely complex and nuanced. You've successfully avoided creating enemies while appearing thoughtful and measured. Everyone present assumes you secretly agree with their particular position. Strategic ambiguity isn't dishonesty or deception. It's selective clarity combined with protective permissivity. Vagueness. It reflects understanding that every piece of information you surrender represents a fragment of power you relinquish permanently. The more others know about your detailed plans, the more they can interfere or sabotage. The more they understand about your genuine opinions, the more ammunition they possess to deploy against you. The more they comprehend about your strategy and tactics, the more effectively they can counter and neutralize your moves. Observe individuals operating in high-stakes environments where consequences are severe. They never fully expose their complete hand. They communicate in ways that support multiple interpretations simultaneously, committing to nothing while appearing to commit to everything. That flexibility represents genuine power and control. The seventh and final principle demands cultivating strategic alliances while simultaneously trusting no one with complete, absolute faith. This represents perhaps the hardest truth in this entire exploration. Everyone remains loyal precisely until the personal cost of continued loyalty exceeds the perceived benefit of maintaining it. Everyone possesses a breaking point where self-interest overrides previous commitments, Everyone has their price, whether monetary or otherwise. The exact moment you forget this fundamental reality becomes the moment someone you trusted implicitly destroys you without hesitation. Machiavelli witnessed this pattern repeat endlessly. Throughout history, closest friends betraying each other over shifting circumstances, loyal generals turning against their commanders for better opportunities, trusted advisors selling closely guarded secrets for personal advantage. This occurs not because humans are inherently evil or malicious, but because circumstances constantly change, and self-interest remains the only truly reliable constant in human nature. Machiavelli famously stated, "Since love and fear can hardly coexist together, if we must choose between them, it proves far safer to be feared than loved." But the deeper, the sophisticated lesson transcends this binary choice. Don't choose between inspiring love or fear. Instead, choose strategic alliances founded upon mutual benefit, maintained through consistent respect, and protected through acute awareness that everyone, including yourself, ultimately operates from self-interest when pressures mount sufficiently high. These 7 lessons have fundamentally rewired your understanding of human nature and social dynamics. 7 patterns that cannot be unseen now that conscious awareness illuminates them. The world doesn't reward pure goodness or moral virtue, it rewards effectiveness and strategic competence. Being good creates pleasant feelings. Being effective transforms your actual life circumstances. The real mastery involves being effective while preserving your essential soul, deploying these tools to construct rather than destroy, protecting yourself without becoming the very thing you're defending against. That represents the precarious tightrope every intelligent person must walk, and most eventually fall off one side or the other. So the ultimate question isn't whether you'll engage in this game. The question is what kind of player you'll ultimately become. Because once you've glimpsed these truths clearly, there's absolutely no returning to comfortable ignorance.